Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. In the next 40 minutes or so, we will cover maybe 10 or 15, hopefully, the basics. In this corner is the sine curve, already finished. And in this corner is the cosine curve. All right, we're going to just do the cosine curve. Sorry, kids, having a little fun. It's late. It's like 8:30 at night. It's like past my bedtime. I'm going to try to get through this quickly. All we're going to do is graph the cosine curve, get an idea how it looks, what it does, and boom, we'll be done. So, this is the basics. It's not complicated stuff. Okay, let's see what you got. I'm going to say okay about 1,000,000 times. Coffee's run out. I don't know what I'm going to do. Probably going to be up all night because I drank that anyway. So, we talked about on day 0 that the cosine curve looks like this. It starts at a maximum and it ends at a maximum. So I want to know where cosine equals -1. Well, isn't -1 the y value down here? And that's at 180 degrees. So in this case, theta is equal to 180 degrees. Boom, done. Square root of 2 over 2, bam, 45 degrees, 45 degrees. Every time I see the square root of 2 over 2, that's 45 degrees. But cosine is negative in the second and third quadrants. And I have a reference angle of 45 degrees. So in the second quadrant, theta is 135 degrees. Or in the third quadrant, theta would be 225 degrees. That's it. It's done. 1/2, that should be theta. That should be theta, sorry. Cosine of theta equals 1/2 at 60 degrees. But cosine is positive in the first and fourth quadrant. And I need a reference angle of 60 degrees. So clearly one of my angles is going to be 60 degrees. And my other angle is going to be in the fourth quadrant or 300 degrees. That's done. All right, we did this yesterday. Let's just really quickly go through it. Cosine of 0 is 1. This is 0.7. This was 0. This is 0.7, -1. Excuse me, this is -0.7. This is -0.7. This is 0. This is 0.7. And this is 1. So if I draw that using this, start at a maximum. Maybe I'll pick a different color. I'll start at a maximum. I'll end at a maximum. And in between, I'm at a minimum. In between those, I'm at my 0 marks. And now I just need 0.7. So I'll come up here. That's about a 0.7. That's about a 0.7. That's about a -0.7. And that's about a -0.7. So if I graph this in, take a look at it. Oh my gosh, I'm not hitting a single point. Now that's the cosine curve. It will go on, cosine curve, just like the sine curve, will go on forever and ever. It will go down to its minimum, come back up, and then go back up to minimum. So this is a really ugly graph of it. I apologize. It's very difficult to graph on these. I'm going to do my very best on this. But what I wanted to show you is that the domain is from -infinity to +infinity. And the range on this particular graph is from -1 to +1. And, you know, in this case, it's from the min to the max, but in this case, it's pretty simple. It's from -1 to +1 is my range. The up and down values from +1 and -1. All right, let's scroll down. Oh, wait. Is this a function? Yes, this is a function. It passes the vertical line test. Yes, it's a function. It's not a vertical, it's not a one-to-one because it fails the horizontal line test. So no, its inverse can't be a function then. But if you were to restrict the domain, and if I really quickly talked about restricting the domain here, and let's say I restricted the domain to just from here to here, just this part of it, from like 0 to pi over, or excuse me, to pi, then yes, it would be a function and its inverse would be a function. But let's not get into that today. We just want to talk about this curve. When graphing the cosine curve, I want you to think about graphing some main points. The main points are the maximums. We're going to graph 5 points, the maximums, the minimums, and the zeros in between. And that's what we're going to graph. And if I just looked at the basic cosine curve, the cosine of 270 is 0. The cosine of 90 is 0. The cosine of 360 is 1. The cosine of 0 is 1. The cosine of 180 is -1. I can either do it in radians or I can do it in degrees. Maximum, maximum, minimum, zeros and 0. So the cosine of pi over 2 is 0. The cosine of pi, -1. The cosine of 3 pi over 2, 0. The cosine of 2 pi is 1. And if I answer these questions very quickly, the cosine of 90, we just talked about it, is 0. The cosine of 180 is down here. That's -1. The cosine of 0, that's up here. That's 1. The cosine of 270 is right here. That's 0. Or I can do it again in radian mode. This is 0. You can pause it if you want so that you can do these on your own. This is 0. This is 1. This is 0. And this is -1. All right, let's get started on graphing some curves. Let's see what we're going to do. Now, we've already done all the sine curve stuff. And you'll notice that looking at this A is amplitude. How high it goes up, how high it goes down. What is its max, what is its min. And I think it should be clear to say that this has an amplitude of 1, so that goes with this one. This one has an amplitude of 2, so that goes with this one. And this one has an amplitude of 3, goes up 3 and down 3, and therefore clearly it is this one. Simple. Same as before, nothing's new. That's not a change from something we've already done before. Keep moving. How about this one? Now take a look. Let's take a look. If you want to pause it for a second, or you can just stay with me. I want to look at this black curve, just the black curve. How many complete cosine curves do I finish? Well, if I take my red pen out, this from peak to peak, that's one cosine curve. Peak to peak and a minimum in the middle. That's one cosine curve. And then again, from peak to peak, that's one cosine curve and a minimum in the middle. So I was able to complete 2 full cosine curves in 2 pi. Well, that's the frequency then. Frequency is 2, so that would be this one right here. This is the black one. Now, if you look at the red one has a maximum here, but it only goes here. I don't even get to go back up. I've only gone down. I haven't been able to come back up. So I've really only finished half of a cosine curve in 2 pi, and therefore my frequency for that one is 1/2. Nothing's new here. And the blue one is just the normal cosine curve, one full cycle of the cosine curve. D value. D value, again, is my midline. I'll try to do this in some... I'll just do this. Let me do it in green. So we'll do it in green. So if I'm looking at this green one, here's the max. Here's the minimum. That means the midline has to go right down the middle of this. So that's the midline for the green one. That's a +1. So this has to be the green one. Let's take a look at the black one. The black one, here's the max. Here's the min. If I draw my midline down that, you'll notice it's got part of the curve above, part of the curve below. That has a midline or a starting value up 2. So this one's the black one. Let's take a look at the blue one, or the red one. Let's do the red one. The red one has a max here. It has a minimum here. Therefore, the midline has to go right down the middle of that one. And that one's midline is -1. So this one right here must be the red one. And of course, the blue one is just the normal cosine curve. No vertical shift up or down. Remember, this thing at the end is the vertical transformation, up or down. All right, let's move on. All right, let's start working. Let's do these. This won't take very long. This is 2. Amplitude is 2. My frequency is 1. My period is 2 pi over 1, or just 2 pi. What does this mean? This means I'm going to complete one full cosine curve in 2 pi. My midline is just the x-axis. I'm not moving up or down. Don't forget the minimum is the midline or the D value. Oh wait, no it's not. It's 1. We're moving up 1. I apologize. Our midline is 1. So our midline is going to be right here. I'll draw that in right now. Minimum is the midline, which is 1, minus the amplitude, which is, so we got -1. And it's the midline plus the amplitude, or 3. So let's graph this baby. Now, remember, a cosine curve starts at a maximum. Well, its maximum is 3. We didn't move left or right, so we're going to start at a maximum. We're also going to end the full cosine curve at a maximum. Well, since it's going to take 2 pi to finish a full cosine curve, at 2 pi, I will put another maximum. In the middle between the two maximums, we'll find the minimum, -1. And in between those, we'll find our zeros. Now, in this case, the zeros are going to be along the midline. And we graph. There it is. Simple. If you don't get it, rewind it. See if you can take a look at it. We'll talk about it. We'll keep talking about it. This one's going to be a little crazier. Now, amplitude is 1. Frequency is 2. Therefore, my period is going to be pi. That's 2 pi over 2. Shouldn't have to talk about that. My midline is y equals -1. Draw that in right now. Shouldn't be using blue, I guess. The minimum is going to be -1 minus 1, or -2. And the maximum is going to be -1 plus 1, or 0. Since my leading since this in front here is a positive, we are going to start at a maximum and we're going to finish at a maximum. Well, in this case, my maximum is 0. My maximum is 0. I'm going to start at a maximum and I'm going to finish at a maximum. Now be careful. I'm not going all the way out here to 2 pi because this right here says you're going to finish one full cosine curve in pi. A complete down and up in pi. Down and up in pi. Down and up in pi. That's kind of annoying. So, therefore, at pi, I will have my next maximum. It'll be right back up at the maximum. In between those two will be a minimum of -2. And in between those are zeros. So I draw my curve. But I want to complete it all the way to 2 pi. So if I go another pi, that means I'm at another maximum. And in between those two maximums, I'll be at another minimum. And in between those are my zeros. And there is my next one. All right, let's try the next one. Amplitude, all right, let's see. My amplitude is 1/2. My frequency is 4. Woo, this one's going to get freaky. So let's see. My period is going to be 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Now let's think about what this means. In pi over 2, I'm going to finish one complete cosine curve. So in that short amount of time, I'm going to do an entire curve. My midline is 2. So y equals 2. I'll put that in right away. My minimum will be 2 minus 1/2, or 1.5. And my maximum will be 2 plus 1/2, or 2.5. Well, rock on, kids. Let's go. Because it's positive, we're going to start at a max, and we're going to finish at a max. Well, my max is 2.5. Right there. There's my maximum. Now, here's where you got to be careful. I'm going to finish one full cosine curve all the way to the minimum and back up to a max. Starting at a max, start at a max, and go back up to a max. Start at a max, and go back up to a max. In pi over 2. So at pi over 2, I will have my next maximum. Which means in between them, I will have my minimum. And it's going to look something like that. One full cosine curve in pi over 2. Well, if that's true, I'm going to have a max here. I'm going to have a max here. I'm going to have a max here. And in between all of those, I will have minimums. So that's one full cosine curve. 2 full cosine curves, 3 full cosine curves, and 4 full cosine curves in 2 pi. That's what those things mean, guys. That's what those things mean. Coming down, we're almost done. Right, one more to graph. I'm going to change this one up a little bit. I'm going to make this a negative. I'm going to make this a -3. So my amplitude is still 3. My frequency is 1. My midline is y equals -2. I'm not going to put that in right now. You'll see in a second why. Oh, that's not. I'm on period. My period is 2 pi. My period is 2 pi. It's 2 pi over 1. My midline is y equals -2. That's what I'm not going to put in. -2 minus 3 is -5. And -2 plus 3 is 1. This scale is messed up. I have to use every box as 1. So -2 minus 4. This is going to be 2, and this is going to be 4. Sorry about that, kids. Okay, so let me put my midline in now. This is -2. Now, because I made this a negative, just to change things up a little bit, that means I'm going to start at a minimum and finish at a minimum. So I'm going to start down here. I'm going to go up, then come back down. Go up, then come back down. Start at a minimum, finish at a minimum. So in this case, my minimum is -5. Let's see, this was -6. So -5 would be right here. Let me do it in a different color. -5 is right here. Now, it's going to take a full 2 pi to finish one curve. It's going to take up this entire graph to finish one full curve. So in between, right there, those are my 2 minimums all the way down. Now notice right here, isn't this an amplitude of 3? And that's what we're looking for, an amplitude of 3. In between these two, I'm going to go to a maximum. My maximum is 1 right here. Let's check. Is that 3? 1, 2, 3. Yes, it is. In between those will be zeros. So in this case, it's going to look like this. Gorgeous. All right. On these, let's see if we can label some things. My amplitude, let's find the midline. There's the maximum. There's the minimum. Here's my midline. My midline is 2. It finishes only one curve in 2 pi, so my frequency is 1. The period, it took 2 pi to finish an entire curve, from 0 to 2 pi to finish 2 curves, and my amplitude is 1. So if I wanted to write this equation, it would be y equals, it went from maximum to maximum, so it's positive 1 cosine, finished one curve, so it's cosine x, but it moved up 2. So it's the normal cosine curve, just moved up 2. Let's look at this one. In this case, my amplitude is 2. It takes 2 full pi to finish one curve, so my period is 2 pi. It's only finishing one curve in 2 pi, and my midline is just the the x-axis, so y equals 0. So if I wanted this equation, it would be y equals, but wait a second, we're going from minimum to minimum. That means it's going to be negative out front. Negative my amplitude, cosine, and we only finished one curve, so 1x. Done. Last problem. All right, here's my max, and from what I can tell, this is my min. That makes this my midline. Okay, so my amplitude to the maximum is 1. My midline is -1. Now, how much of this curve was finished in 2 pi? Only half, so my frequency is a half. And if I can only finish half of a curve in 2 pi, how long would it take me to finish the entire curve? If 2 pi for half, then it's going to take 4 pi for the whole curve. And my equation on this one is y equals, my amplitude is 1, so 1, and it starts at a max, so it's positive 1 cosine 1/2 x the frequency, and it moves down 1, -1. And that, my friends, is the basics of graphing a cosine curve. The next video after this is graphing the cosine curve with phase shifts left and right, where I add in that C value. That's in the next curve, and I do a lot more with graphing, and I take it a little bit slower in that next video. But that's all of this stuff right here. We're going to be adding this C value in, so we're going to really cover it in the next video. So if you really want a better, slower handle on graphing these cosine curves, take a look at the next video. All right, guys, thanks. And if you like what you see, go ahead, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button so I get some more subscribers. I don't know why. Maybe I'll get some Brugger's. Oh, I just spilled coffee all on myself. Time to go to bed, kids. Good night. Bye.